On South Padre, Starney's Hot Dogs and more. Stop by today.
Sunny Glen Children's Home has provided a place of hope for every child since 1936. If you'd like more information on Sunny Glen and the services we offer, please visit us at www.sunnyglen.org.
Back live we go once again to here for a whole hour. Already getting ourselves ready for, well, the magazines for football, for volleyball, to preview the next season of football for you all. It's going to be very exciting. And, of course, volleyball. These are two of all the key sports that a lot of people would say are born and bred perfectly integrated into Texas culture of high school. And so, yes, of course, we have the high school football and the one goal, one valley, 68 teams tradition that runs deep. Yes, about 68 teams in that magazine all by itself. Every breakdown, every snap, 300 plus key players, names to know, numbers to watch, reputations to earn, every district, every matchup in August 2025. And then, like we mentioned, it looks like this. You have on the top the schedule, the coaches, and then, of course, all the way over on the bottom, you have the about team, you have the players, key players to look out for, and then you have the advertisements, the sponsorships on the bottom. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. Over 12,000 copies in circulation. We will have the same thing for volleyball, like I mentioned, from probably 1A to 6A to all of the TAPS schools that potentially provide their players and all of that fun stuff. So it's going to be very exciting for both of those, and I can't wait. So glad that Rio Sports Live Network, we're doing this again. Thank you to Joe Bowling and everybody who's been a part of that because, well, it's just going to be absolutely beautiful. Now, moving on, of course, talking very quickly about none other than the best part about this, which is the RGV Red Crowns. This is one of the things, the first thing that I really wanted to get into for all of this, and that's exactly what we will be getting into very quickly for the RGV Red Crowns. What has been the key thing right now for the RGV Red Crowns? Well, one of the key things was, well, how are you going to respond after losing your first match the week before on that Saturday against San Antonio Corinthians? How were you going to respond from being on the road and not looking like your best selves? Well, this team, they went back to work practicing a lot more, and Coach Reyna was really well with the team, working as best as possible, and the midfield at the home match seemed like they were going to be intact. I got to, of course, visit the stadium last Friday at where the White Wings used to play. Of course, it's that Harlingen Field, 1216 Fair Park, I believe is what it's called. And Harlingen Field, phenomenal facility once again. And it's just been the way that the ownership has taken control of it and just been able to quickly make it into this soccer field has been, well, one of the things, of course, that we all know was going to be an issue from the start, but will be a lot better coming up very quickly, has been the field. Why do I mean by the field? Well, it's very, very rough. It's not necessarily a soft ground because it's grass that's grown over a baseball field in general, from the mound, from, of course, the third base line and the first base line, all that have been completely covered, but it's still going to be a rough field. So players got to see their home for the first time on that Friday, and then, of course, they also got to see the locker room, which was pretty nice as well compared to what it was not too long ago. Again, all of this was completely renovated and redone nicely, and it looked very well for the first game day. And players talked about it and said that it was very good, considering what they were expecting. Goalkeeper J.C. Alvarez, for a minute there, was afraid that the ground was just a little bit too hard, that he'd hurt himself when he'd have to make saves, dive on the left or the right on both ends of the field. So that was one thing that they were concerned about, was just how rough the pitch would be. And now game day happens, and it's still, the pitch is still, it hasn't necessarily changed too much, but of course game day happened. I got there as early as possible so that I could really just get ready and all of that fun stuff. And so, sure enough, it was something spectacular. You get there, the stadium, of course, is still empty. You're getting all set up for the matches or for the match, and I got set up, of course, with all the broadcasting equipment with the National Soccer Network, and was in my corner. And then once things seemed to be better, it was good. And then all of a sudden, the players are out, they're warming up, the fans are getting into the stadium, and it's very exciting. You can start to feel that momentum. And that was very well. And again, it was interesting for your starting 11, kind of. We had gotten that starting 11. I think it was very interesting of that starting 11 for the RGV Red Crowns. I'll read it to you here in a second, because it was very well done, just of how everything was going to be. Your starting 11 was Kevin Zamora, Vicente Alvarez, Carlos Gonzalez, Corey Lundin, Javier Ballesteros. And then you had Zachary Hargreaves, Diego Vida, Erev Vera, Axel Monels, Emmanuel Alvarez, and Juan Carlos Alvarez, your goalkeeper. Your subs were Zaid Sanchez, Jose Diaz, Emiliano Abud, Diego Rivera, Rene Galvan, Randy Galvan, and Diego Torres. Those were your subs against Central Dallas FC. So that was an interesting point of that match, of course, how that starting 11 would really form up and be good. Well, with Corey Lundin in at midfield, you also had Zachary Hargreaves in at midfield. That was a big thing that I gotten told by my source that was at the San Antonio match, the first home match, they were a little bit out of sync. They weren't necessarily there at the midfield, and so it was very difficult. Well, first half starts, and guess what? It's about 20 miles per hour of wind directly towards myself as well. And so I'm announcing the match and trying to do my best job. And for the first half, it seemed like the RGV Red Crowns were on the back front. And so that was on the back foot. So it was very difficult for the RGV Red Crowns to kind of break out into what they wanted to. And so, yeah, you had Carlos Gonzalez at 9, and then Vicente Alvarez at 10 for your two front, with Ballesteros on the right wing, with, of course, Kevin Zamora on that left wing. And then Corey Lundin on the left midfield, with Zachary Hargreaves kind of on the right midfield, a little bit back, more of a helper, if anything. Then Diego Vida with Erev Vera on those two left and right back positions, with J.C. Alvarez in on goal. Emmanuel Alvarez, check that. Actually, so Erev Vera was your clear center back, with Emmanuel Alvarez on that right wing, or on that right back, I should say. Kept making that mistake a little bit, but that was kind of a very good thing that we saw, that we were able to see throughout the match. And so that was going to be very key. And again, it was a lot of defensive effort for the first half for the RGV Red Crowns. They had a couple of opportunities, but weren't able to strike the ball in the back of the net in that first half, giving Central Dallas FC a couple of those opportunities. JC Alvarez had to come up big, and even the defense had a couple of goal line clearances even in that first half. Now that was a key thing. It was only in that first half that they had some of those issues, and then all of a sudden, not even heading into that second half, but you would have a hydration break because it was over 85 degrees Fahrenheit throughout that day and when the match started. If it's over that degrees Fahrenheit, there will be a hydration break. That is from the NCAA, the JUCO level as well, is what I'm trying to say, NJCAA. There we go, the NJCAA. And then as well, the professionals from MLS to all of the USL, Championship League 1, League 2, UPSL, NPSL, and even NISA have that intact because, well, you just want your players, you want all the players to be able to make it and still have that break that they know because of how hot the match is. And so that was one of the things that was pretty interesting in this match for sure, was that not unfortunate part, but it was just, it was good. And so, moving on in that first half, of course, RTV Red Crowns were more on that back foot. They were losing a couple of midfield battles and weren't actually being able to really get up and pressure. A couple of times they would just miss, and it'll go back to the keeper. A lot of back and forth with the keepers, of course, because of how much the wind affected in that first half. Then, of course, halftime happens, and unfortunately, the RTV Red Crowns find themselves in the book with one player. Corey Lundeen gets a yellow card for dissent. So that was an unfortunate first half incident, and happens, of course. But like I mentioned, we go to halftime, 45 minutes down, 45 to go, and well, looked like 0-0, and that could potentially be how that second half would go. The RTV Red Crowns again started off strong. They had a couple of chances, but then would back up and have to play out of their final third for most of that second half. The first portion of that second half, that's what was really happening there for a second. They'd get a couple of opportunities and wouldn't necessarily be able to take the chances that they want to, trying to play it out by trying to cross it into the box wouldn't necessarily work as best. And then it was just those limited opportunities for the Red Crowns in the first half. Now for your second, or for the first portion of that second half. Now for that second portion of the second half, the Red Crowns really worked well with tactically changing up their positioning and all of that. And then all of a sudden, here we go. More chances, more opportunities for the Red Crowns, trying to get forward, trying to get into their attacking third, trying to make Central Dallas FC play from behind, play from their final third, instead of the Red Crowns having to do that. And so it was a good second half, second portion of the second half, I should say, for the RGV Red Crowns, because all of a sudden, I believe Zachary Hargreaves takes it back from midfield and then lays a beautiful through ball that goes skimming through perfectly to Vicente Alvarez. The keeper for Central Dallas FC comes way off his line, and Alvarez takes a strike. Bottom left corner, back of the net. RGV Red Crowns have officially scored their first inaugural goal of the team's history, of the club's history, and they lead for the first time in the club's history. And on top of that, it's the go-ahead goal, and it's Vicente Alvarez's first semi-professional goal as well in his career history too. Again, a lot of these players, I mean, I can name off the roster, and I will in a second when I get the chance to tell you all where all these players, of course, are from and what college they potentially went to, or all that fun stuff. And you would, of course, remember, of course, the names a couple of times, especially for people that have been watching for a while. With Rio Sports Live Network, they definitely recognize Vicente Alvarez's name. Why? Because he played for McAllen High School. He had an opportunity, I believe, with the Toros Academy, but when he went to Mac High, he had the playing time. He was on the field constantly, had those opportunities, and of course, unfortunately for just himself and McAllen High School, they weren't as great in comes, of course, their junior, senior year, all of a sudden a lot better of a team, just missing the playoffs in their junior year, and then senior year, they make the playoffs, win the city title, and lose district to none other than Sharyland High School. They win the by-district, though, and lose in the area round to none other than one of the Palmview schools, I believe. So one of the La Jolla schools ends up knocking them out of the area round, and that ended their career. But again, going back to it, Alvarez, he gets that goal. It was a beautiful one, takes that strike. The keeper comes off his line, able to put it away, and then he goes celebrates in the corner with all the fans and stuff. And it was just one of those moments where it was like a movie, because this team, if you were to look back at the stats, in my opinion, they did not control the midfield as much until the end of the match. They did not control the possession as much, not even in the end of the match as well. Once they scored that goal, it was a lot of dropping back and trying to get possession as best as possible, because Central Dallas FC then again had a couple of close opportunities to find the equalizing goal. We're talking about the 76th minute, around there is where the goal was scored. And so the RGV Red Crowns really had to hang on for close to 25-ish minutes or something like that. Remember, I haven't even talked about this. With the stoppages in play that we had in the first half, we had about 2 to 3 minutes of stoppage time in the first half. We had about 2, 3, maybe 4 minutes of stoppage time in that second half. It felt like an eternity for the side. And that was the truth about this team. There were a couple of there was a stoppage after the goal was scored as well, tending to one of the Central Dallas FC players that ended up getting hurt on the play. The head coach of the Central Dallas FC ended up getting a yellow card for dissent as well, which, what does dissent mean? Basically, you're arguing with the referee. The referee doesn't like what you say. He can warn you, and then also, of course, give you a yellow card, and he can also send off a head coach if need be. But again, that's what ended up happening in that match. And with Vicente Alvarez scoring a goal, yes, the defense had to come up massively in the end of that match, and were able to do that. And so there were stoppages left and right as well, but that was a key thing. Now, of course, last week we had at least one player make it to the team of the week, and that was, of course, your goalkeeper, J.C. Alvarez, Juan Carlos Alvarez to be exact, who made it to the team of the week this week. Well, that was pretty interesting, pretty exciting from just this side, which, again, for the RGV Red Crowns, if you're able, just as a player, if you're able to make team of the week, well, you did a pretty good job for your game, for your match. And so with the Leafs FC, let's see here, actually, I have it somewhere else, but I just wanted to tell you all who made the team of the week for this team. You would, of course, think, yes, Vicente Alvarez would make it with the goal being scored, and that is very true. So it was also, with all three of these, Vicente Alvarez would make it as team of the week, along with Zachary Hargreaves, your midfielder for the RGV Red Crowns. Then, of course, shout out to Central Dallas FC, Kyron Pino, with the midfield. He makes team of the week. He did a phenomenal job again, was very key for that team. Like I mentioned, the midfield for Central Dallas FC really did a fantastic job of limiting the chances from the RGV Red Crowns. Then, of course, Diego Vita, your final player for the RGV Red Crowns, making the team of the week this week in the Texas Conference Week 2. Diego Vita, your big-time defender, helping this team get that victory. 1-0, keep that victory as well. And so, very exciting once again. Still have so much more to talk about this team, and hopefully I get to talk about it a little bit more, and we will after this break. Just think it's time to take a quick break. Stay tuned.
South Padre Island. event. Enjoy endless activities for all ages. Then dance the night away with live music, savor fresh seafood, and discover unique food trucks and shop our charming boutiques. What are you waiting for? Escape the everyday at South Padre Island.
Sherryland ISD, a nationally recognized district focusing on quality and rigorous instruction where every child is immersed in a culture of academic success. Sherryland ISD, excellence is our tradition.
When you study local at Texas Southmost College, you can choose from over 50 associate degree programs, certificates, and workforce training programs, all at the most affordable cost in the Rio Grande Valley. Transfer your TSC credits to a university or start a new career, like Kat Gomez, who graduated from TSC and is now patrolling the streets of Brownsville and serving her community. Register now at tsc.edu/register and study local at Texas Southmost College.
Time to take a new look, maybe your first look at Buick. If smart, hip, and affordable is for you, Buick's your brand. Fruia Buick, Brownsville, Texas.
Back live we go once again to hear from none other than Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, we'll check out Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac located in Brownsville, Texas. Of course, before we continue on with talking about the RGV Red Crowns, it is my job, my duty to, of course, advertise for your 2025 Rio Sports Live football magazine. That's what we have right now, of course, again, showing you this back copy. You can see on the bottom the advertisements, the top, the players that are coming back to look out for. You have, of course, the coach and, well, really quickly, yes, your returners and all that fun stuff. And then your schedule, as well as about the team. Right there is where it would be. So it's going to be very exciting. Again, we'll have that for none other than volleyball as well. One Cold, one Valley, 68 teams. Tradition that runs deep. From Rio Sports Live, Volume 8, every breakdown, every snap, 300 plus key players, names to know, numbers to watch, reputations to earn. Every district, every matchup. Again, for August 2025. That's going to be very exciting once again. Just making sure that I advertise it as much as possible. Of course, for Joe Bowling and Rio Sports Live Network, it's going to be a fun football season. Stay tuned. I mean, we also have that. We also have UTRGV football, which I don't know how much we'll be able to necessarily cover for that, but it's still going to be very fun. Anyways, moving on with that, we have none other than some fun stuff for you all. But, well, continuing with the soccer that we were talking about, once again, the RGV Red Crowns, well, they win. They get 3 points on the board in the conference, to be exact. And so now they find themselves not too far away from none other than San Antonio Corinthians FC, the first place team to be exact right now. The top of the table is kind of up for grabs, even though the team that is undefeated are San Antonio Corinthians FC. We talked about it a little bit. The Corinthians FC, they ended up winning this past Saturday by a good score, good margin, as well as the week before, winning 2-0, the Saturday before, winning 2-0 against none other than the RGV Red Crowns. The San Antonio Corinthians FC also won against Central Dallas FC 4-1. So they had a +3 goal differential from that match, a +2 goal differential from the RGV Red Crowns, making their total at that time, well, 6. Or check that, well, 5. A a +5 goal differential, then of course heading over there scoring more goals. So they have the goal differential intact right now, winning of course 6 by 6 goals, or winning, check that, by not that much actually, not as much as we had thought for a split second. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at here with the Leagues FC, I'm just trying to get exactly the League FC. Yes, of course, we have all the teams of the week. I'm going to the Texas Conference. After the Red Crowns ended up winning that one, Corinthians, of course, 3 matches played, 3 wins, no losses, no draws. Their goal differential, their goals for is 11, their goals against is 1, so they have a +10 goal differential with 9 points. RGVFC are the RGV Red Crowns SC with, of course, 1 win, 1 goal with them, so they still have a -1 goal differential from losing 2-0 against none other than, well, San Antonio Corinthians FC. I think this game might be a little different than what we saw. Corinthians FC of San Antonio, to be exact, is their official name. And it's going to be interesting because we're going to see, I think, a different matchup considering, well, where Corinthians FC of San Antonio got to play at. It was at a familiar field that everyone, especially that watches Fruia Sports Live, kind of knows of, which is SACS, San Antonio, the San Antonio Christian, where St. Joseph Academy is played at a good amount for football and basketball, or football and, of course, soccer. And why do I bring that up? Well, that's just because that's where they play, and that's a phenomenal, just a phenomenal place, of course. But now you're heading on the road, Corinthians FC of San Antonio. That's where, of course, they're heading. They're heading on the road to none other than the Valley in Harlingen, a little closer than, of course, all of that. And they're a top team, but now they get to play on real grass in a different environment. And I think right now, what we're looking at is a different RGV Red Crowns team. And I kind of hinted at this earlier during the broadcast, and this is where I kind of wanted to get into, was one of the coolest things that I would definitely say is, well, just talking about this roster. I've talked about this roster before, but we didn't get to see all the players. And so one of the coolest things, now we, of course, get more box scores and all of this, but so really quick, the goal that was scored by RGV, Vicente Alvarez, in the 76-48, so 77th minute technically. Javier Ballesteros with the through ball. So he's the one that made the through ball. This is just, of course, for correction. Played on mid left side to be goalie 1v1. Cautions in this match, of course, with the RGV Red Crowns number 8. That would be none other than Corey Lundeen, who ended up getting a yellow card. And then the 90th minute in stoppage time, head coach gets a yellow card. Said number 6 actually. So I'm gonna go with that, but either way, Juan Carlos Alvarez goes to 1-1. And so, yes, Harlingen Park. Okay, and so that's really where, but going back to it, was having some of this, just for Alvarez. From McAllen, Texas, Brownsville, Texas, Mission, Texas, Edinburgh, Texas, Baytown, Texas, Los Fresnos, But then you got Manchester, England, McAllen, Texas, Brownsville, Texas, Wesco, Texas, Arroyo Grande, California, Progreso, La Jolla. Then you have Barcelona, Spain, Edinburgh, Texas, Mission, Texas, Cali, Colombia, Edinburgh, Texas, Donna, Texas, Brownsville, Texas, Hidalgo, Texas, and East London, South Africa. But this is the interesting part about all of this, is that doesn't even tell you the full story about all of these players. Because, yes, we can talk about Abud. We can talk about Alvarez, Emiliano Alvarez. We can talk about Vicente Alvarez. Well, guess what? All those players, yes, they played down here in the Valley, but they went out and got to play up north. St. Edwards, we've named it for Trinity. We've named it as well as even being able to go to school at IMG Academy, being able to go to up north, again, just for soccer. American University, again, for the goalkeeper, Juan Carlos Alvarez. And it's a lot of out of town that the players have been, the starters are. It's still local because they get to come back home. But again, that is the key, and that's how you recruit, is those players that are able to go out. Then, of course, getting to sign. That was the main thing that I was so excited about this team, is that there's so much variation. There's so much variation for this club, and that's going to be the most exciting part about it, is that, again, this first win with a 1-0 victory, that's only going to open up more scoring opportunities for every single player on this side. I wouldn't be shocked if we see maybe a Corey Landine goal. Yes, he's the midfielder, or a Corey Landine assist to help out with this team. And I think Vicente Alvarez is going to get a couple more goals in my eyes for sure, being that key number 9. And then, of course, having that number 10 ahead of you, it's going to work out perfectly with the two wingers off the left wing and the right wing. It's going to help out. Hopefully, of course, the wind stays calm. Yes, if we get a little bit of rain, that's not going to be the worst thing in the world. It's just hopefully we have a lot less wind than we did for the first match. Of course, yes, and that was the craziest part about it, and I think that's what really made a lot of the struggling for the RGV Red Crowns happen. This is the top team, again. Corinthians FC of San Antonio, they are not an easy team at all. They lead this conference for a reason. There's other teams that are destroying other sides at the moment. Yes, they might have the same amount of points as the RGV Red Crowns, but of course they have more goal differential. That's going to be the key. +7 goal differential is what I want to see from the RGV Red Crowns. I think it's definitely a possibility for them to just get into this rhythm of things, and seeing how well they can play is going to be key. Again, San Antonio, the Corinthians FC of San Antonio, that's going to be a very difficult team to look out for. They did, like I mentioned, defeat the RGV Red Crowns 2-0 at their own place, and that was the RGV Red Crowns' first ever match. So if you look at that, the RGV Red Crowns right now, for the teams that San Antonio have played against, for the teams that Corinthians FC and San Antonio have played against, that's been their lowest win so far this season. And I can go back to it and talk about that, at least the second goal, and say, where was the marking on defense for the RGV Red Crowns in that area, where it could have only been a 1-0 loss? And, of course, the RGV Red Crowns, they had trouble finding the back of the net, unfortunately, and that's going to be a key thing. They need to find more goals in the back of the net in this, not in the second half, but in the second match against this team. I really do believe that that's going to happen. I really do believe that that's probably what Coach is working on this time. Because I would not be shocked if that's what we're going to see a lot more of. And so there we go. So, yes, you have Miana Aboud from St. Edward's University, Seoul Ross State, St. Edward's, in SA Lions RTV UPSL, Texas Southmost College, and JCAA. Of course, that's Jose Diaz for you. Then East London, South Africa, UT Rio Grande Valley, NCAA Division I. Then you have St. Edward's University, NCAA Division II. That's from Mission, Texas's Isaid Games. Of course, then you have Randy Galvan, Rene Galvan, and then Carlos Gonzalez, Seoul Ross State, NCAA D2, Texas Southmost Colleges, Los Fresnos, Texas's Romualdo Gonzalez. We probably will not see him play a lot more, or as much as we would expect. American University, of course, you had Juan Carlos Alvarez, Savannah Clovers, Manchester, England, Zach Hargreaves. And again, just telling you, Butler University is from Westaco, Texas, native of Angel Luna. Madison Colleges in JCAA, Progressos, Jorge Mendoza. That's an interesting thing right there. Why do I bring that up? Because he did not end up going to TSC in JCAA, is where he's playing. But again, it goes to decide to play in Madison College. Just kind of makes me think, of course. Then you go down to La Salle, Barcelona, Spain, Axel Manels. I love it so much. And not to mention, of course, from my sources, I can't tell you who, but expect more players to show up on this roster in the coming weeks for this team to be even better. I'm so excited for the way that this is going to be this season. This is their next home match after that for the RGV Red Crowns. Where will they head to? They'll head on the road on the 7th of June to Central Texas, then on the 14th and 15th to FC Dallas U23 and Tyler FC. Then they'll be back at home in Harlingen, Texas on the 21st of June. So after this match, they will not be home until the 21st of June. That will be interesting. So very exciting for all of this to really come together. And honestly, I expect for the RGV Red Crowns, with everyone coming into the team and just getting united, that this is going to be very exciting once again. Well, we're going to take a quick little break here. When we return, we'll be right back after this. And we'll really finish up our soccer talk. Because, yeah, not too much to talk about next. Who would my goal scorer prediction be? I think Vicente Alvarez will get a goal, and then you'll have your other, well, number 10 really get that goal, which his name, of course, not to forget. This is who I would expect Carlos Gonzalez to find a goal. Wouldn't be shocked if Kevin Zamora were to join the party as well off that left wing cross inside, being there, being able to beat the keeper. That's going to be very interesting again. There's a chance that this team could potentially make 3 goals. They just have to find the back of the net, get that possession with purpose, and again, test the keeper, test the keeper, test the keeper. Again, that's really all I have to say on this note. We'll be right back after this when we return. Stay tuned.
Truck Techs in Harlingen is your source for lifts, wheels, and tires. Talking trucks of any size, any model, and any year. Specializing in accessories with top-of-the-line products to bring that special look to your truck in a professional way. Lifts, wheels, and tires, with financing available too. Call today or stop by Truck Techs in Harlingen.
My son Leo just graduated from high school, but also with his associate degree from Texas Southmost College at no cost at all. Not having that financial burden was so helpful to our family. That's 2 years we did not have to pay for.
All of my TSC credits transferred to UTRGV, and I am so grateful to go into my major debt-free.
Back live we go once again here, and well, of course, after a commercial break as well, if you're looking for a new car, of course, come check out Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, and Cadillac. This is where, of course, we're live from. I'm Jacob Young. This is Real Sports Live Network, talking sports here at Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, and Cadillac. Well, once again, after the commercial, it's perfect time for me to also advertise this. Once again, the Rio Sports Live Fall magazine for football. Of course, it's in production. It will be out not too long from now. Volume 8, every breakdown, every snap, 300 plus key players, names to know, numbers to watch, reputations to earn, every district, every matchup. August 2025. One goal, one valley, 68 teams. Tradition that runs deep. Of course, this is what the back will look like, or what a page will look like. You have your advertisements there. You have all that. The players, of course, returning. That's going to be your key players. Up there, your players, again, returning. And about the head coach, or check that, about the key games to watch, the schedule, and then, of course, about the team. That's what a page is going to look like on the Rio Sports Live Network's magazine. Going to be absolutely perfect, and you're not gonna want to miss it. You're gonna want to have one of those. Anyways, so very reason, of course, being for testing. It's one of the tracks that Samantha Tan hasn't necessarily gone to in her career, and so it's kind of brand new. She'll get to test. They'll get to shake down the car, find, of course, the grips to this car, and find the speed out of the BMW. We're looking forward to it for Samantha Tan Racing, and Samantha Tan in her 45-minute race. That's not too long from now. It's going to be about a week or two until she's back out on track. Finally, we'll have that opportunity to race. It's going to be so much fun for herself. But I thought I'd shout out, of course, Samantha Tan Racing. They find themselves in Mid-Ohio, and I can't wait. Anyways, of course, moving on, kind of close to the end of this show. And one of the things to, of course, look out for, well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about stays in the Valley. UTRGV baseball. Unfortunately for themselves, yes, they were eliminated in the Southland Conference tournament, and it looked like an outside chance for them to make it. They were the first team out for a long time, the first team in, or the last team in for a long time as well. And then the team that ended up beating them wins the tournament. That is Houston Christian, and they find themselves in Texas's regional. So that's, of course, something to witness. So the UTRGV Vaqueros will not make the postseason once again, will not make the NCAA tournament dance, and one of their best seasons by far, from the fan support to everything that they were able to accomplish. Just could not win some key games for them to make it into the tournament. One that could have helped possibly Baylor, and we'll see how they can come back from it this next spring. But very exciting for the future of them. Of course, then you have their football coming up, and I had been told it's public news. Their schedule will witness only 7:30 p.m. start times in the evening because of the heat. So when they have home games, it will be in the evening. Thankfully, I was thinking they were going to have that bad luck, and they were going to have a couple of noon kickoffs, and that's not, it's not crazy to say, because that would happen. But apparently, that's not going to happen this next season for UTRGV. So yours truly might find himself at a game, unless I'm in College Station, Texas, at an actual football game. Oh, when it's FCS compared to D1 in the SEC, there's really no choice. But anyways, going back to, of course, the show once again, just it was a phenomenal season by UTRGV, phenomenal season by Valley Baseball this year, of course. Unfortunately, neither PSJ or Palmview could make it through to state. They ended up losing, I believe both of them ended up losing in Game 3, and a very difficult way to just miss out on state. They came close on, I believe, both games, but it was just unfortunate for themselves. It was not meant to be in the end, and that stinks for them. But anyways, very exciting for, again, the future of that, for baseball as well. In the RGV, we expect them to always make it there, and that's going to be something that we really just expect every year. And then going back to it as well, it's just good times. Of course, we had a big Memorial Day weekend. Of course, hopefully you all had a nice Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend for some. But one thing, of course, to talk about was the Indy 500. I ended up watching the Indy 500, of course, live, as I have done for a while now, thankfully, because it's something spectacular. It starts up at 11 a.m. our time normally, and if the weather's great, you don't have any rain, it'll start right there, and it's awesome. Well, anyways, it was an absolute sellout, and the start couldn't have been any more dramatic. You had a bit of rain, the track dries up enough. Track is, of course, cool because it ended up being 63 degrees Fahrenheit when the green flag dropped. So if you take that into consideration, it ended up being tied for the fourth most coldest Indianapolis 500. Normally, you have temperatures 80s, 90s, classic Memorial Day weekend temperature for even Indianapolis. But no, the cold front came through, and it was pretty cold for the start of the race, just in general, when you're talking about late May. And so, just one of the coldest Indianapolis 500s. And right off the start, Scott McLaughlin warming up his tires. He ends up spinning, hits the wall, damages his race car, unrepairable. So they're delayed to go green. They have to take Scott McLaughlin out of the race. So already from 33 drivers, we're down to 32 drivers to hit green. Scott Dixon at that time, his brakes caught fire because he was warming up his brakes just a little bit too much. Comes down pit lane, cools them off, and starts from the rear. Okay, already a lot of drama right off the start of the race. We get going off the start, then we have ourselves a lap 1 wreck. Okay, we get going again. We have ourselves not too long after. All of a sudden, Alexander Rossi is going slow. He goes down pit lane. His car catches fire because of a fuel leak. Cars start to drop like flies. Kyle Larson downshifts in a quarter. He wrecks. Okay, another driver's out again. It was just one of those races where there ended up being some good rhythm, but then it came down to fuel mileage, and all he had to do for Alex Blow was take the lead. He takes the lead. He falls in line behind a lap car to save fuel. He saves enough fuel and makes it to the checkered flag, and Chip Ganassi Racing wins. Your second and third place ended up actually getting, or not second and third, sorry, second and sixth place ended up actually failing post-race inspection. And, well, a crazy, crazy end to the race. But yeah, that was very, very fun in my eyes for the Indy 500. Coca-Cola 600 was great as well, aka the World 600 is what they also call it. And so very, very fun. So just looking at it once again. How much fun the race was, too. And so, yeah, just a great weekend overall. And again, the RGV Red Crowns getting their victory as well. It's key. Again, they play this Saturday. You should tune in if you have the chance, or go in person, because it's going to be phenomenal crowds and it's a good time. But I think since it's hit 3 p.m., that will do it for myself here from none other than Luke Fruia Motors, Luke Fruia Buick GMC, and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, we'll check it out one more time as well. It's officially time to advertise this for 2025 Volume 8, the official guide to RGV football, August 2025. Every breakdown, every snap, 300-plus key players, names to know, numbers to watch, reputations to earn, every district, every matchup. 12,000 copies in circulation from the Rio Sports Live. And, of course, one goal, one valley, 68 teams, tradition that runs deep. Of course, like we mentioned, this is what the back will look like. You have the returning players, key games to look out for, the schedule, and then, of course, some more key players to look out for, and then your advertisements right on the bottom. Going to be great. Thank you.